When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and I'm so excited to be back here today as we approach all these amazing holidays that we're all relishing in with family. My kids in January say, we're good. No need to get together in January. We had a lot of family over the last few months, so they want a break. I don't blame them. We have a lot of people when we get together. There's 28. I always tell everyone there's 28 just in my family of my kids and my daughter and son-in-laws and my grandkids. So that's a lot of people to have in one house. But we just love this time of the year to get together and celebrate whatever the holidays are. But I love celebrating just time and making memories together with our family. It's very special to me. So we hope that you too are spending this time connecting with your family, connecting with others, and really sharing time together and just being together. I think that's so important. And I'm excited about today's subject, which is about building personal resilience. So much we talk about our businesses, but today we're going to shift that. We did in the last episode too. We talked a lot about taking quiet time for yourself, breathing, really understanding how to connect with your highest inner self. Today we're talking about building personal resilience and why that's so important, and really not leaning on resilience of others, I guess is really what I would say about that. And Wendy Kleinfeldt is with us today. But before we get to Wendy and I introduce my amazing guest, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's show, Phoenix Drone Pros. And at Phoenix Drone Pros, we love what we do and are passionate about each and every drone photography and video shoot. We've been in business since 2015. Our talent and skills shows in the video production we deliver. We offer fast services for commercial real estate, movies, events, weddings, construction site monitoring. We also provide drone virtual tours that are all the rage right now. These virtual tours are great for team building and entertainment. Contact us today at phoenixdronepros.com to schedule your shoot online to get more information. We're now franchising. Reach out for information how you can purchase and own your own drone company today. We capture everything. Thank you, Phoenix Drone Pros, for that information. All right, let's get to my brilliant guest that we have today. Wendy is a first-generation Chinese American who is also a third culture child, having lived in 4 countries over 3 continents. She became an executive coach because she believes that part of her purpose and legacy is to uplift women into power through nurturing their feminine leadership. We're going to be talking about that today, too. She draws her expertise of over 13 years of research and cross-industry experience in companies ranging from the public sector to global Fortune 100. She's got a master's degree in organizational psychology, an evaluation, and a graduate certificate in coaching. Wendy Kleinfeldt, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm really excited to be here. So a little bit for the guests, I just moved here from Oregon. So this is such a great way for me to, take a kind of dip my toe into the network and into the space here in the Phoenix area. So super happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy you're here. When anyone moves to Arizona, my friends immediately introduce them to me. They're like, "You have to know Colleen. She is so connected to
Yes.
everybody in the valley."
Yep.
And right away, I'm like, "Okay, have you been to this chamber? Have you done this? Have you met this person? Have you connected? Okay, we've got the conference coming up. All of these things that I want you to connect with because it's the fastest way I can get you to connected to so many individuals that can truly change your life." And that's the reason why I do the things I do, is because the feedback I get from women is, my gosh, because you connected me to XYZ or this organization, it changed everything for me. And it's sometimes we just don't know who are the right people to connect with. So I'm definitely a connector. And, over the years, many people say I hate networking. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And I teach about networking in a way that's more like attending a dinner party. Why do we, when we go to a dinner party, we just want to know about the other people. We never dive into who are you and what do you do? You know, it's about, oh, do you live here? How do you know Rachel? Do you work close? Do you have a family? Do your kids go to school here? We're trying to find out about that person. Yet when we get into this business networking mode, it's crazy because we just start, everything about business brain. And then we forget
Yeah,
there's a person standing in front of us that has a heartbeat and
you're
feelings.
you're speaking my language, Colleen.
Yeah. So, Wendy, I'm so happy that you're here with us today. Tell me a little bit about what it was like. I have not traveled that much through so many of the different countries. And you said you've learned so much from your parents about
Yeah.
traveling and being born in China, moving to Hungary, and you moved to Thailand during your college years. Have you found that this traveling and kind of taking little leaps
Mhm.
everywhere has really helped you build your personal resilience? And what did that take? Was it on purpose or was it on accident?
Yeah, well, definitely, I would say it was by accident because a lot of my travels happened when I was younger. And as anybody knows who's listening, that when you're young, especially when you're 18, you're not thinking about how do I build my resilience? You're thinking, how do I have the most fun in college? So, yes, you're correct. I learned a lot from my parents. And what I think is really interesting about my journey is that I didn't realize how resilient I was or how much resilience it took for me to get to certain stages until after the fact. So while I was going through it, sometimes you don't see above your circumstances. And if I think and I think now that if I had been more, just maybe a little more emotionally aware, or somebody had told me when I was younger that, hey, what you're doing is just part of the process. It's painful, but you can get through it. So if somebody had walked me through kind of the cycle of resilience, I think I probably would have processed certain things better. So, which is why I love sharing my story, because I want people to know that even when you do scary things, it's not always scary forever. And sometimes it's scary because you're doing something really big and meaningful.
Mhm.
So the first one, when I look back and some of the things I learned from my parents, and they're kind of an inspiration when things get hard and I feel like I can't do something. I think about their journey moving from China to Hungary back in like the early 90s. You know, they had a pretty comfortable life. They had a career that they could have taken all the way to the top. And they gave that up and moved us to Hungary to start brand new. I mean, it was not just a change of career, but it was a change of everything. And if you think it's scary now to move from Oregon to Arizona, I mean, some of this move was overwhelming, but I think about like my parents moving to a country where they don't speak the language. You know, they look completely different from everyone around them. So the population of Hungary is primarily, Caucasian. And so when we go there, people are like, they're just staring at us on the street because there's just nobody like us. Can't speak the language, so the food is different. We don't know how to navigate things. I just remember my parents thinking like, where do I even get soy sauce? Right. And if anybody knows in the Chinese cuisine, that's like a staple, right? Rice, soy sauce,
It's
all
like
the other,
ketchup. It's like ketchup to
maybe even more.
Americans.
Maybe it's more
Yeah.
like mayo, it
And
goes in
mayo.
everything,
Yeah.
right?
Or
And
butter. Yeah.
and they had, and then they had to kind of like think about like, okay, how do we get an apartment? How do we do this and that? I have no idea how they did all this with minimal understanding of language. And not only were they able to get an apartment, but they built a life for me and later on for my sister. They put us in private school.
Mhm.
I mean, they just built a life from scratch. And they probably shielded me from a lot of the obstacles that they faced, but even as a kid, I could see how difficult that was. And so whenever times get hard, I think, oh, I can't do this, my business feels so hard, or maybe it's not worth doing. I think, whoa, shut up. Like your own parents moved, and this was back in the early 90s, no computers, no internet, nothing, no Google Maps, nothing, right? And they moved to a different country and found a way to thrive. So if they can do that, in some way, it's like, don't, make it proud. show them that you're part of that legacy. So that's kind of one of my early lessons with resilience, learning from my parents.
That's beautiful. How, working now with your clients and through that process, how have you been able to have them really kind of just understand if they have the resilience, if it's there? Is there a first step that someone takes on building that resilience? Like, I have tools that I use in my toolbox for building personal resilience. Like, I on purpose joined a dojo to build personal resilience, that my mentality, and I spent almost 3 years getting my black belt. So I went on a very long journey
Yeah.
of personal resilience, but I was a runner for a long time. That built a lot of my personal resilience, because these things that we do as individuals, you don't always
Mhm.
have another accountability partner there. And so
Yeah.
many of us need that in the beginning. You don't go from couch to marathon in a week.
Correct.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
done that, but I wouldn't recommend that for anybody ever, because I couldn't walk for like a whole day and a half
Oh my
after
gosh.
that. But I would say this: how would you say that someone would start in
Yeah.
building the personal resilience? Because this is personal, right? This is
Yes.
so important. We cannot lean on other people constantly to always be there to fuel our success. It's one of the habits of a high performer that I talk about and teach, which
Mhm.
is you have to build your own motivation. You got to build your own energy. You've got to
Yeah.
build that, and you can't rely on others to constantly be pouring that into you. So
Yeah.
when personal resilience is very different.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah.
I think resilience is not an external force. No one can
Mm-mm.
make you resilient, although someone can maybe facilitate a situation that eventually ends up you
Creates
being resilient, right?
it.
So what's will be interesting for the listeners is that when I was in graduate school, I actually studied a branch of psychology that dove into things like how do people become resilient. And as a project and as a paper, we actually dove into the processes and ways of doing that. So I would say, based on research, there are a couple things that people can do right away. One is a very simple exercise of reminding yourself times in your life that were challenging and that you overcame them.
Mm-hmm.
So just a simple fact of you revisiting and analyzing, reviewing those situations can be super helpful. And it's not just looking at them and going, oh, I guess that was hard, but it wasn't that bad. I will give, no, no, no. Actually sit down, take a moment and take inventory of what happened, right? So maybe you went through a difficult time in college or a hard time starting your first business or whatever it may be. How did you get out of it? Think like make a list of what was challenging and then write down everything you did to get yourself out of it and give yourself the credit. Don't say, oh, this person helped me do it. It's like, yes, we all go through life with the help of others, but inventory everything that you did. And then once you take a step back and take a look at it, you'll realize that you have a lot more in you that you just never gave yourself credit for.
Yeah.
And that past experience is actually a way to build that, I would say, kind of like a starter resilience battery, if you will. And
Yeah.
resilience really only happens in action. Resilience
Mm-hmm.
really means it's just you being able to bounce back when you trip and fall. And another way of building resilience, and this may sound, I don't know if this will sound woo to people, but there's actual research behind this. You have to build joy in your life. So the research is actually pretty clear. The more positive emotions, now I'm going to get a little more technical just by saying, positive emotions, but in day to day, it's happy moments, right? Feeling good. The more positive emotions you can build, it's like you're building up your battery for when things get bad. And the more
Mm-hmm.
kind of storage you have of positive things, and that could be if being with your friends and family brings you joy, spend time with them. Do the thing that makes you happy because that will actually serve you for when things get tough. Now, this doesn't mean that that's all you do and you don't put in the work for what you want to do, but don't lose sight of what makes you happy while you're trying to get to the thing you want. Because if you're ignoring your happiness, then
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing it all? Like, what was the
Agreed.
purpose of doing all that?
Yeah.
There's a third thing I'm adding to it, which I think I've learned just over the years, which is be clear with your purpose. I think when you have to be truly resilient, you can really only be resilient if you are very tied to your purpose. If you're doing something because you feel like you have to, or because you feel like it was something you were brought up to believe that you had to do, you may not find that motivation again once you stumble.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really truly tied to your purpose, like I feel like in this life, my goal, my calling is to help other people grow. And I see that need in women. And so if I don't do that well, with some of my business right now, which, that's not necessarily the case, but let's say that if it doesn't go well with my coaching, then I know that because it matters so much to me that I can try it and there's different ways I can go about it. So I would say purpose is a huge one.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I want to give all the listeners a visual, because when you were saying that, I pictured this big jar, two big jars, right? And every time you had a happy moment or joy, you put a stone or a pebble in that jar. So it
Yeah.
starts filling up. And then along the way, when you have something happen, you've got to pull out a pebble, right? To put it into the other jar, because those are the bad things that happen along the way. What happens? Think about it. You're building the happy moments, build up that jar bigger and bigger and bigger. So when the bad moments happen and you're pulling them out to put them in the bad moments jar, you still have a jar full of pebbles of the happy moments, which again is keeping that us motivated, creates energy and momentum and keeps us going, because we can always remember those times and remember when we've gotten over that, because we have that balance. But if you have more hard times than happy moments, then there's no pebbles to take out of the happy moments to fill the void that's happening in the bad moments. So you're just stuck with the void. There's nothing. And I just thought of that visual of those jars and thought, I've always told my clients, picture yourself like a battery that has, an energizer battery where you used to be able to push the two ends of the battery and it would tell you how high the charge was. That's how you should picture yourself. Are you fully charged every morning when you start your day? Because if you wake up and you're tired and you're already half charged and you do nothing to pour into yourself in the morning, then you're just going after your day to pour into everyone else. How can we build? You can't build personal resilience like that. You've got to have a full battery to do that. And the happy and joyful moments for sure overshadow all the bad, always overshadow all the bad. And that's a coaching moment in itself. And in every moment, if a client asks me, like, I don't know if I can do this, I'm really scared about this, or I'm nervous, the first thing I say to them is, when was there a moment in your past that you weren't able to accomplish something? Think back. I just want you to tell me one of the times that it was miserable and you failed and you almost died from it. Like, tell me what happened. They can never think of a moment. It's always like, no, I was able, of course. I mean, and I go, and you've overcome really hard stuff. This is not even a hurdle. This is like stepping over a puddle compared to the mountains you've climbed in the past. It's just the reminder. That's what you're telling us, Wendy. It's the reminder that we need to take a moment to get out of our head all this crap we're making up of that it's not going to work, or you're fearful, or whatever it might be. We don't know how to accomplish something when we start it. Just everyone needs to know that right now. Give yourself a break. I didn't know how to be a black belt on the first day that I walked into the dojo and bowed and said, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, in a white belt. I was in regular street clothes. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I had no idea what it was like. It was the time and the lessons and the people along the way that guided me. And that is how I finally got to the end result. So will you. So will you. You just have to trust the process and all of these tiny little things. You might think, well, I don't feel like I have very good resilience. Stop, pause, take a moment, just as Wendy said, go back and think about all of the times in your life that you have overcome something that was building personal resilience. Every single one of those is a deposit into that box.
Yeah.
And we just forget how amazing we are.
Yes, absolutely. That last point is take inventory of the things you're good at. Because I find that most people, especially women, don't give themselves enough credit for everything that they do well. I talked to this woman once who's a stay-at-home mom, and she's thinking about getting back into the job market. I said, what are you really good at? And she was just like, I don't know. I guess I'm really good at cleaning things, organizing things and putting them, I'm like, okay, but what's the skill behind that? Like, you're not giving yourself enough credit by just saying, oh, I don't know, just these basic things that I do as a stay-at-home mom. It's like, okay, what are the skills behind that? Maybe you're a really good project manager because you can't keep track of all the details. So I think we need to actually spell out what are we good at? Because when you take a look at on the piece of paper, like, oh yeah, you're right. I know how to learn languages really quickly. I know how to pick up new knowledge quickly. Like, take credit for those, own them, because once you recognize how much power you have, all those hurdles will seem like just hurdles. And the other point that you made that I really love was that you just have to be patient sometimes and just stick with the journey, because I think we're in a day and age where everything moves so fast, like with technology moving quickly. And so for some reason, we've translated that speed to the speed of human growth. And as we know, just from the way that we operate and the way we function, we can't grow like and be as adaptive as AI. We're not zeros and ones, right?
Yeah.
So when we see this hugely successful entrepreneur out there, we're thinking, there's no way I could ever be that. She's this amazing, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? There was one day where she was in the exact same shoes as you, thinking, I can't do this. And the journey that it took for this person to go from I don't know to I am on top of the world was maybe harder than you thought. Because people always show you the positives, right? Like with social media, LinkedIn, everything, people show you the highlights, they don't show you the lowlights. So you have to accept that as with anything worthwhile doing, it's going to be challenging. And you do have the resilience to go through things, because if you've gone through life thus far, you know how to bounce back from challenges. And I think a lot of it is also the story you tell yourself. This is something that I've been talking to people about, is that, some people look at it as like, what's the mindset you have? And I think behind that mindset is a story. The story in your head is, I'm not good enough. I should be where, XYZ by this time, or this person's so much better because they're smarter than me, or of course that person got that deal because, their daddy's connected or whatever. So these are all just stories, and whether they're true or not doesn't matter. You have to think about, are these stories, what are they fueling in you? Are they fueling the energy that you need to put into what you want, or are they keeping you from doing something? So you have to also examine the stories that you are playing in your head, and know that the stories are just stories.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because they are just stories. They really are. And the comparison of yourself to others is going to be detrimental no matter what. No one wants to record themselves having a bad day and put it on Instagram.
Exactly.
No one does. How do you feel about recording yourself when you're crying or having a moment? Like, no one, I wouldn't want a camera on me. I wouldn't want anything on me. I wouldn't want that documented, because for me, it's like, just let me have my moment, and then I'll move through it because I need to clear it out, and then I move on. But we don't want to remember those times either, so we're not documenting those. Well, no one else is either, and they all cry because they all have tears and they're human, and we're all having times or moments in our lives. Women say that to me all the time, Wendy. They're like, yeah, Colleen, we'll look at you. And I'm like, I didn't start here. I didn't get birthed out of corporate America into what I'm doing right now, 6 years later. Like I did the climb. We all have to do the climb. And I know that you've got to push the rock up the hill and it feels heavy sometimes, but it's worth the climb. It's like any mountain is worth the climb. Have you seen the beauty from the top of a mountain? It is the most gorgeous view, and you can only get that from going through the climb.
Yes.
You've got to go through the climb.
And the last piece I would offer for people is, even though we're talking about personal resilience, that it's not something that is externally fueled, I would say though that you can still build a community around you that will help you put those happy pebbles in that jar.
It's essential.
Right? So
your tribe and your executive board, I always say your boardroom is essential.
And just like that imagery of pushing the boulder up the mountain, who says you have to push by yourself?
Yeah. No,
Right?
you've got all of these people giving you different perspectives and advice, and they're
Right.
opening doors for you. That's called your social capital. They're there providing opportunity for
Exactly.
you. But that doesn't mean that I think the balance that we're talking about here is you can't rely on everybody else to do it for you. You've got to do the heavy lifting. But when we do it together with
Yeah,
other people, it doesn't feel as hard. You
exactly.
always feel supported and loved.
Yeah, and I'm running along, building on that imagery, so people can't push the boulder for you, but they can be standing by your side when helping you out, when you say, you know what, my arm's a little tired, can you hold me just a little bit
Yeah.
while I take a rest?
I love that.
Or it's maybe somebody who's further along and you say, hey, how do I get up there? And they say, you know what, you should take this path.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
It's easier.
Yeah, that's what I mean by you
It's
need other
easier.
people, you
Yeah.
need community. It's not that you blindly say, you know what, I gotta do this on my own, so I'm gonna, cut everyone out. That is actually a very popular advice today among men. So
Wow.
I would say that this is like a lot of the alpha male like podcasts that are out about how if you're one, dedicated to a goal, then you just gotta make sacrifices. Maybe you don't hang out with family as much, maybe you don't hang out with friends and you gotta cut certain people out. But that's what you gotta do. You gotta focus for, 2 years, whatever, and get there. So I don't really buy into that. You need
No.
community, you need others in a way that
Yeah.
fuels you, even though they can't do it for you.
That's right. I love that. And family for us, families first. I mean, we own businesses with our family. It's families first. And everything I do supports that and fuels that. And there's got to be a foundation of your values behind why you're doing what you're doing, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep,
Now, Wendy, I know there's so many people that want to know, how do I get in contact with Wendy?
sure.
So we have your Instagram. Is that a great place? I love that, Asian Mom Fitness.
Yep. So for folks, I am also very close to becoming a certified fitness coach. So I'm an aspiring bodybuilder one day. That's gonna be my climb. My Everest is to get on stage. So Asian Mom Fitness is my fitness account. You can, get in touch with me, follow me to get inspiration, to get some advice.
Love that.
I also have at Wendy K Consulting, which is kind of more on my leadership coaching side. I will respond to anything. My website is wendykconsulting.com.
Mhm.
Email is simply wendy@wendykconsulting.com, and you can find me also on LinkedIn. I'll respond to any form of communication or any mode.
We've also got your LinkedIn, so they can
Yeah,
click on LinkedIn. That's one of the
absolutely.
best ways to probably just message you
Absolutely.
privately,
Yeah.
or on Instagram to message you privately as well. And then when you go to wendykconsulting.com, there's a way for you to connect with her. You
Yes.
can, book a call with her. This is your chance to say, I need to build more personal resilience. I need someone by my side that's really going to help me. And sometimes we don't know who that person is going to be until we have a conversation with them. And you've learned a little
Absolutely.
bit about Wendy today, so you felt her energy. But when you get to connect with her, you get to ask her questions, and she's going to let you know if she feels like she might be the right person along the journey for you to add her to your executive boardroom. And maybe she's not the right person to sit in the seat. I always say, we don't know until we have the conversation with someone. And then
Absolutely.
something tells us it's right or it's not right,
Yeah.
and it's that conversation you need to have. So never be afraid to have those conversations, reach out to someone, email, get to know them a little bit better. And then you can make your decision from there. So, Wendy, thank you so much for being on today's show. I'm excited to see you at all these local events that are happening around here
Thank
this
you.
year. And I cannot wait to see you more and introduce you to more people, and really start filling your Rolodex to where you're going to be like, Colleen, it's full. I'm good for now. And I'll let you know when I need some more contacts. So,
Oh,
uh,
Colleen, I am so grateful, and you're so right. Before I moved here, our mutual contact was like, you have to meet Colleen.
yeah,
So
Susan's
here we are.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love her, love her. So to all my listeners out there, I just want to remind you, as I always do at the end of every show, you're the only you that's ever been. I love this so much because you're the only you that will ever be. You are special. You are special beyond a shadow of a doubt. And the more you build your personal resilience, the more happiness you're really going to have in your life, because the belief that you develop in yourself through personal resilience will get you through so much, because when other people tell you you can't do it, you know deep down I can. And then there's no other better feeling than that. And we'll leave you with that today. So until next time, listeners, don't forget, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.